Thank you, Peg. I'm very excited about your plans to expand the White Arrow Woods empire. I think it's really good news for books. And this is, I've been here a lot as a listener, and this is the first time up here as a reader, so that's exciting. And the first time ever to read from an actual book. And there's no place I'd rather do it. So the first section of Twister follows 9 people over the course of a day as a large tornado sweeps into their lives. And short sections before each chapter chart the movement of the storm. And I'm going to read a brief storm introduction that segues into the Sylvie chapter. And Sylvie's a teenage girl whose boyfriend has recently been killed fighting in an overseas war. Rose is her neighbor and the dead boy's mother. And in glimpses we've seen in earlier chapters, Sylvie has appeared quite mousy and elusive. I think she has the introvert superpower of being very perceptive about what's going on around her. But she has no idea that a storm is coming and nobody knows where she is. So, here goes. A hum comes over the wires. A message from the meteorologists who are miles away watching color patterns swirl and break apart on the pulse Doppler radar. Yellow, green, blue, pixels in all colors of the rainbow. It is beautiful, they think, kaleidoscopic, majestic. One will begin the alert sequence, rapid air movement, supercell gathering into a wall, affected counties. The alert becomes an all-out warning because science makes it so. An intern hands a radio man a piece of paper and points to a message blinking on the computer screen in front of him. He pulls his chair closer to the microphone and prepares to read. One county on the list is more familiar to him than the others, but Ted Waite is a professional and does not pause. The warning follows proper notification procedures. A secretary picks up the phone to call her boss in the mayor's office, panicky that she has forgotten something important to the protocol. Another staffer in another office runs down the hall to make sure the safety officer, who's been having troubles at home, is at his desk. Storm chasers who've been following the alerts pile into cars and floor it, determined to see for themselves. This time, oh yeah, this one. Sitting at his desk holding a cup of cold coffee, Ted Waite watches the cloud front grow wider on his screen. Brilliant green overtaken by a thickening yellow, with a deep crimson pulsing at the center. He leans into the mic. Take shelter. Hold tight. Not everyone has a radio. In Rose's hayloft, a farmer's daughter holds tight to other things entirely. The mutterings of a lost woman, adults coming and going, the clink of dog tags, a locket, a red folder leaning against the barn wall. Sylvie rode her dirt bike through the corn, a path known by heart, careful not to ding the plant with her handlebars. Before the stone wall, she hopped off, pushed for a few feet, and then shoved the bike behind some brambles and hoisted herself over. She scrambled through the thorny branches and scuttled low along the edge of Rose's yard, into the barn and up the ladder to the hayloft. Morning sunlight poured into the loft, softened by the hay dust. A huge rush to get to this stillness. Through the window, Rose's house leaned forward, wanting to tell a secret. Lance's mother spent her days hacking at bushes and making herself scarce when anyone tried to visit. She was more than sad. There was an extra weight in there. As Sylvie had heard her dad put it, Rose was acting out of it. But that wasn't exactly true. Rose was inside, far in, too far to come out and pay them mind. Sylvie knew because she spent most of her time here. She'd tried to talk to her early on, had walked right up to Rose and said, "I want to see his room again. I need that picture he drew for me." But Rose's eyes refused to focus. She seemed to not remember Sylvie's name, her, Sylvie, Rose's neighbor for her entire life. Lance was dead, and his mother muttered to the empty house, slicing the branches until even the strongest, oldest ones turned brown. Sylvie watched it all from up in the hayloft. Her parents thought she was in her room or at school, if they thought of her at all. Lance was dead, and details that she'd known like her own skin were fading, the exact shade of his brown eyes. Red scratches rose on her forearms from shoving through the thickets. She liked them. They brought clarity. They got there because she was trying to understand things. Every time she clambered over the stone wall and pushed through the brambles, his face flashed before her. then gone. A familiar voice below, Dad talking to Rose in the yard, holding a rolled-up piece of paper. He looked younger and smaller from her vantage point through the high window, and he was asking for something, but Rose was having none of it. Sylvie knew how Rose made him feel. He wanted to lease Rose's land because it hadn't been worked much in recent years. The soil was rich, and they could transition it more easily to organic. He'd mapped it out at the dining room table, talking softly with her mother. Now her father retreated over Rose's stone wall, shoulders up around his ears, and she waited for him to notice her bike. Not a flicker. She wasn't surprised. For a second she thought she should call to him. But I don't want him to get what he wants either. Rose stomped into the house, her hair, her whole outline vibrating like the weather vane on top of the barn. Down below, Fergus whimpered at the foot of the ladder. He liked to come visit. Being the only one she talked to, Fergus knew Rose was off her rocker before anyone else. Sylvie had cheese slices for him so he wouldn't bark. He put his paws on the bottom rung of the ladder and she unwrapped a slice and dropped it down. School was a problem. Some days, like today, her mother gave permission not to go. Other days, they didn't know about. She'd intercepted 2 letters addressed to her parents, warnings about absences. But she did her work. They couldn't say she didn't. Ben Culp, Lance's best friend, gave her the assignments she missed. Lance's other best friend, Ben Logan, was in his 2nd year at State. She talked to the Bens sometimes, and sometimes it helped. Other times she could barely stand to think of them. Lance had told her she was his best girl, the only one. Though after he died, Amanda Vega cried every day, sat in class with black streaks down her face and didn't even wipe them away. So Sylvie stopped going to school until it went on too long and they made her go back. No more excuses, her mother said, palm hot on her back as she shoved her out the front door. You have to buck up, Syl. Her mother didn't say her name often. Sylvie could count the days since someone had spoken her real name. 6. Nicknames didn't count. Syl didn't count. Lance didn't call her Syl. Fergus had swallowed the cheese slice in a gulp and lingered, waiting to see if another might be coming. Now he trotted away. Rose was on the move. A sputtering rumble started up from the driveway. She hadn't driven anywhere since Lance had died, but now she had the truck going. Sylvie went to the window. Fergus put his paws on the truck handle and barked until Rose leaned over to open the passenger door. He scrambled in, expending a lot of effort to get his legs up on the high seat. Rose started backing out even though the door swung wide. Hey, Sylvie started. The word came out croaky. Hey, don't. There was no way Rose could hear from this distance and over the rattling engine, but after another moment of backing up, she stopped the truck and leaned over to close the door. Hey, don't do that. You'll lose your dog, is what Sylvie was going to say. You can't afford to lose anything else, Rose. If she'd shouted down from the hayloft, Rose might have taken it for the voice of God. She doesn't believe in God, Lance had told her once. Do you? She'd asked, though if he were damned to hell, it wouldn't change how she felt. The light from the haywell made his hair dusty shiny. They'd sit here in this hay, running fingers along each other's thumb pads. Her thumb along his thumb pad. Why did it feel so good? She had willed herself tiny so she could explore it like new land. Hike along, plant a flag. Fergus whining below, their shoulders shaking, the sweet powdery hay smell in their mouths. She touched her arm, pressing hard on the scratches the brambles had given her. Pay attention,